All right.
Yep, should be good. All right. Here we go. So
Okay.
we'll try that take two. A few moments off there. So thank you. We test things out, and then when we test it, we have so many tabs open. So welcome. My name is Bill Corcoran, and my colleague who already met is Rob Long. We are both coordinators in our Learning Technologies department. And what that means is we're both teachers in the role at the board, trying to support our system with technology. And obviously, today we're going to try to support our parent community who are coming into the virtual area with learning with your child. And so we're going to do our best to help make that transition a little easier for you and for your teachers, and especially for your child. So some of the things that we're going to look at today under this session breakdown is kind of a little bit of an overview of what it means to take on virtual learning at the system level and try to know what it means to make a transition at this time for you. It's a big deal, and we want to make sure we make, like I said, this easy as possible for you. We're going to look at what your OCSBstudent.ca or your child's OCSBstudent.ca talk about the process for reset of a password, what Chrome profiles and student portals and Hapara Workspace and student dashboards mean to you. And they might already mean a lot to you, but just in case, we're going to go over some of those pieces for you. And of course, we're going to be looking over some of the parent portal pieces and digital forms as seen on here. At the bottom of the screen, you will see that there is a tinyurl.com/OCSB tech questions, and we will be trying to answer some of the questions on the fly during this session, and we will make sure that we'll try our best to embed them into this piece as we go. Of course, coming together today, our board respectfully acknowledges that we are located on the ancestral, traditional, and unceded Indigenous territory of the Algonquin peoples, on whose territory we pray, learn, play, and work. And of course, we come together in prayer in a busy time in our lives, in our families, in the society. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. God of hope, comfort and restore all who suffer in body, mind, or spirit. May they know the power of your healing love. Make us willing agents of your compassion. Strengthen us as we share in making people whole. In the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Okay, I'm going to pass this over to my colleague Rob, as I mentioned. So here you go, Rob.
Hi, everyone, and welcome. Thanks for joining us today. And don't forget, at the bottom of your screen, if you have a question, please, I see a couple are coming into the spreadsheet. Just type it in that URL. You have to be specific with the upper and lower case. Okay, so it is specific. You have to type in OCSB in uppercase and then tech questions in lowercase. And welcome to a new session for your students. If you're joining us in the virtual academies for the first time, I just wanted to highlight some of the changes that the board has gone through and some of the challenges that we face as a board as we shift over 12,000 students into virtual. This is a big impact on us, on our teachers, on our administration, on how we manage technology. And we just want to make sure everybody understands, for everybody, this is a huge shift. For our teachers, especially, who aren't in a mode to necessarily deal with students online all the time, they have to completely change the way they interact, a lot with parents, but more so with their students, and how they actually manage assessment, how they deal with communication ongoing with students. Their ability with kids not present now is for them to do things like take attendance, manage classroom behaviors, deal with security of that classroom, and make sure everybody's safe in that classroom, even though it's virtual. This is all very new to them. And so they've gone through lots of prep for this, but still, it's a new environment. And we just have to be really aware of that as we work with our kids in the classroom that's are in your home now, and of our teachers and how we work with them. And next slide, Bill. Thanks. And then for you as parents, you have kids in your house now learning all the time during the day. So this is going to be an impact at home too, especially if your kids have just been in the brick and mortar schools. So again, it's going to be new to everybody at home. And so you just have to take a breath, and it's going to be different. And you just have to realize it's going to take a little time to work into a groove where this is actually going to be comfortable for everybody in the house. So you're probably going to have a new teacher. Your kids are going to have a new teacher. So it's going to be a whole new introduction coming in kind of mid-year. So that's going to be a big shift for everybody involved. This teacher may be brand new to this environment. Some of them may have experience already and have kids in class that you're joining. So it varies depending on how and who you join as you move into this space. Because the kids are at home, one of the expectations is that parents are going to help support that a little bit and make sure those kids are attending, because we can't see them every day. And are they hopping on and off? And, are they using excuses sometimes like, oh, my tech isn't working and things, and then they disappear. And so we see that happening. So we do rely on parents in a different way as we enter this environment. We do need to make sure that kids have access to technology in this space. So they need to have their devices plugged in. They need to have access to the internet. And that just has to be ready every single day, because that's how the kids are learning now. We ask, that parents do support their kids, but we also ask, just as if they're in a regular classroom, that they're looking at that outside of the synchronous teaching times. So when the teacher is trying to deal with the kids, we want to try as parents to try and let that happen. And if there's other issues, or maybe there's tech issues even, if that can be put to the side, and if the teachers were in a classroom with their children, you wouldn't just walk into the classroom and interrupt the class there. And we ask that you keep that same concept of respect, even though it is virtual. In this case, it's something to consider as you're dealing with that. Just wait till after class and then ask the teacher for some support. And your teacher is there to support you and your student. And again, especially during the learning, that will be synchronous with the student. And when it's not synchronous, that's a time where you can interact with the teacher. So if you have any questions, again, don't forget to go down to that URL, put them in, and we're going to try and summarize them and ask at the end. For devices, so you should have Chromebooks or PCs or Macs or something in your home now that's ready for you to use. And any of those devices are great. We recommend Chromebooks because when students sign on to a Chromebook with their academic account, it kind of puts them in a nice academic space that isn't as easy to hop out of. So it works a little bit better typically for that virtual classroom management piece. If we're recommending some of these, not particular, if it's a Chromebook, we recommend flip touch type of Chromebooks with at least 4 gig of RAM in them. And that's because we do push Android apps and things onto the Chromebook. So sometimes they're touch interactive type of applications. So that's the best kind of scenario you can get into for supporting this. You may have a board device, or you may bring your own device, and really both are great scenarios. Your teacher is your first kind of line of support. For board devices, of course, we can swap those out of school or do things like that. If it's BYOD, then we appreciate that you brought that device into this space and are working with your student on learning on that device. And we can give a best effort support, but we can't directly support BYOD devices. The internet is an important aspect of the technology in a virtual class, because you need to be connected. And because we're using video typically to do that connection, it does require kind of a minimum bandwidth to actually do that. What we would recommend is to look at a 10 megabit line per person in a home. So you want to see that you have download speeds of 10 megabits per person if you're doing video type of calls like we're doing right now. So you want to take a look at your home internet. Most packages are going to be much higher than 10. So most are going to be 25, 50, 100 plus. So typically it's not a big deal, but if you are having issues, it's something to look at. And one of the things you can run is a speed test. And you can just Google speed test and it'll come up with a little check and show you how much bandwidth do I have in my home? And it'll help you guide you a little bit on that. Again, questions at the bottom of the screen, OCSB in caps, tech questions at tinyURL. And Bill, back to you.
Thanks, Rob. I really like how you set the context for the conversation today with our parent community for ourselves, and you know that right off the bat, I forgot I had a tab open, and so we were hearing that echo, and so we realized that there are going to be learning pains from every avenue, and just going in with that understanding that it's not going to be perfect every time. I don't know if anything ever is, but in that case, it's we're learning technologies. I forgot a tab open, so we'll play it. We'll put it out there, and then that may happen when you are with your student with your students class. So we keep on going and keep on learning and having fun. So basically, there's going to be a lot of information that is going to come my way from on behalf of our learning technologies team. We are working closely with the elementary and the intermediate secondary virtual elementary programs and the virtual academies. So we bring our information today on behalf of our collaboration with them as well. One of the places that right now we are going to look at being able to share the slide deck, but the information that we are about to share is available publicly on our Samaritans on the Digital Road site. And the Samaritans on the Digital Road site is our digital citizenship, curriculum, and parent and community resource site. And so it is samaritans.ocsb.ca, and you can type that into your browser. It is linked on our OCSB board site. And when you get to that site, it will open up to not this page, but it'll open up to this page if you're typing it in right now. So I'm just going to navigate. So when you type in samaritans.ocsb.ca, and if you're not following along right now, that's okay. But just know that this resource will be there for you. And I'm just navigating over to the right-hand side and parents, and I just hover over where it says the drop down. I'm clicking on student use of technology. So a lot of the items I'm going to be speaking of today, if I'm going too quickly because there's a lot of information, then you know that you have a place where you can narrow down some of those ideas. So you can see that today on our agenda, I've already mentioned a little bit, we're going to talk about your child's student accounts and the safety and privacy that what looks like in the Google Suite for Education. And we'll talk about that in a few moments. There's a little bit of information on the student portals, and we will get there as well. Chrome profiles, which will be key, and information about Hapara workspace and highlights, and what we do in the OCSB to help support students in their safety online and within their Gmail and student environment. So this is our parent site on the OCSB Samaritans on the Digital Road site. Just going to flip back to the slide deck and start bouncing in back and forth. Here we go. So OCSBstudent.ca. So a lot of time, if you are new to our board this year and you haven't had a chance, if you are coming from a brick and mortar school, and you probably already have, you might already have that information. And because of our Learn at Home from last March till June, there's a good chance that you probably have your students' information in terms of logging in. If you are introduced to your student's classroom teacher and you do not have that information, you can touch base with them and they will be able to get you your child's password. And in this case, even though you may not have ever had it, it will be required to reset it. We get in, so your child's first username is their first name dot last name at ocsbstudent.ca. And in the rare occurrence, there are duplicate names. So just make sure if you don't know your student's email address right now, that of course that conversation is there with your child's virtual classroom teacher as you transition in. And if you ever need it reset right now, you can touch base with your classroom teacher as well. And it can be a password, a suggested password that you both know, but it will involve the classroom teacher to make sure that that is reset for you if you've forgotten what it is and or you want to change it. Okay, so for student accounts, we talked about the first name dot last name and the teacher being able to reset it. There's a big Gmail icon right there. And what that means when we are in our student accounts, especially at the K-6 level, this is what I'm referring to. We use the term that the student accounts are fenced in. What that means is as we continue to support them and make sure that they're safe and protected at the K-6 level, it means that the students cannot be emailed in or out of our domains, our OCSB domains. So staff, their teacher can email them, and they can email their teacher, but if you as your parent, even if it's a Gmail address, wouldn't be able to send your child in the K-6 grouping an email or that of that sort right now. So, and likewise, they wouldn't be able to email out to you. They would be fenced in from that piece. So that is one thing that sometimes, as we're trying to share something or an image, that we get caught up on as well. So Rob, I'm going to pass. Do you want me, you were going to get me to continue on the Chrome profiles, I think? Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to navigate out of the slide deck for a few minutes. I'm going to introduce you to one of our fake students right now. And this fake student is student number 17. And I'm going to drag that into the page right now. And I think you're seeing it, Rob. Perfect. So student 17 is one of our students. And like I said, it's not a real student, it's just one we use to test with. And student 17 is here. And they may have gone to a school. I pulled up this school like Guardian Angels. Now that I've transitioned to virtual, a lot of the resources are the same, but your process of who you are reporting to looks a bit different. But on there, if you need access to your student portal, when the student is signed in and they hit the home button, they usually get access to their student portal. But right now, I did go to the school website that I was familiar with. And if I click on student portal, it will pop up with the student portal that I'm going to be using to refer to today in some of our icons. So when you come in, you can see that here's Hapara, here's Gmail, Drive, Calendar, Meet, Sites, and Slides. So we're diverging a little bit, but I just wanted to show you a little bit what was going on, because we're going to talk about Chrome profiles. So when your student logs into a Chromebook or into your device, like Rob said, you might have a Mac or a PC at home, and those are great devices too. I am using the Google Chrome browser. And Google Chrome browser invites me to sign in multiple places when I log into the Google Chrome browser potentially for the first time. So when I logged in, I'm just going to go to my, you have a lot of tabs open. It's very busy. I wanted to be prepared for some of the things I want to show you, but I'm just going to make it less busy right now by going to google.ca. It has this unique, the doodle for today. And you can see that at the top right, even if I'm in a Chromebook, you won't have these two, but in a PC or a Mac, you would have these two options here, but a Chromebook is doing both at the same time. At the top right here, it's not in the Google piece. You can see that right now, student 17 is logged in, and there's an option for multiple different accounts. This is called a Chrome profile. And what that does when I'm signed in and out of those ones, I can keep all my accounts separate. And that's what we're going to be talking about today when we talk about a couple of our features that we use with Hapara today. When I'm in here, I'm signed in all to my student 17 account, but I could click and open up another account, and that opens up in a separate browser. But for today, the only thing I need you to know is that the student is logged into this Chrome profile, and therefore they are part of the OCSB ecosystem in which we are working within. There is an option right below it, again, not for, and the process would be the same if I did this on a Chromebook now, because I'm not talking about Chrome profiles, is that when I click on this icon, it gives me the option to add another account. And this is where some of the families from once we've gone virtual, they start signing in this place between accounts that reflect maybe their other child, your personal accounts, your Gmail accounts, or so forth. And this is where I would encourage us to use the different profile feature than logging in out of Gmail and Google within this icon right here. It's a bit confusing. We do have a video to support this in our slide deck, but the big thing I want you to know is Chrome profile separate, and then knowing which Chrome profile you're in as a parent. Because if you're in your student's account and then you open up a tab in Google and you go to do some banking or so forth, that has an ability from the examples we're going to see in the next bit of time. So keep your Chrome profiles separate, and that is on the slide deck, and it is in some of the resources we continue to share with our virtual parents. So that is Chrome profiles. And I'm just going to bring that back a little bit. And we were going to talk about the portal. And in here, Rob, did you want to speak about the portal a little bit while we're on it?
Sure. The portals are important to you whether you're an elementary or high school student or a parent because it contains almost all of our online content. Typically, when a student logs in, they're automatically going to come up with a portal presentation, and that's how we've assigned their accounts is to come up that way, so that they always have access easily. Especially the youngest kids, when they come in, it just poof pops up, and now they can touch things that they need. In K-6, which we're seeing right now, we have fewer options for kids to make it less confusing. In high school, we have more subject areas that we have to cover in more depth, so there are more options on the high school portal. And you'll see, even when you're not in class, there are things you may want to come back to with your kids. There could be assignments that they're given, and maybe they have to do practice orbits, when it's not synchronous time, and that's a math application. You'll see that there. Or maybe if you're in a junior year, 4, 5, 6, they're going to use mathematics instead. So some of these are age appropriate, and then you and your teacher will discover that as you go through. Other things that we have here for you are things like Sora, and that's our online library so that you can access books. Where is Sora? There it is, little guy down there. Yeah. So there's Sora. So that's an online library system. So you always have access to a full set of library books, even though you're participating virtually. So there's many other things on there. We won't go through all of them. Your teacher will take you through a bunch too. But just understand that it's there for you and for your students to access. It is secured, so you actually have to be logged in as your student. So they have to be on that profile that Bill just talked about and logged in for you to actually access this. And again, you can get to it from your school website. Bill, you're on mute.
Good call. Thank you. So we've talked a lot about kind of some logistics here. One, the ability to get in. Obviously, we need to know our students' Google account information, where to log in so we can access the portal. But we're going to start transitioning into some of the logistics to get our child into class as they start in the virtual world. And that two of those items will be one, the main one, which will be that video component, is Google Meet. And how do you get to an event that's been created by your teacher? And how do you get into that on the day of? And what does it look like to do so? And some logistics on that. And the next piece is, how do I continue to get some of the work and the information that my teacher is sharing with me as a parent, as my child in their class? And in this case, we mentioned about Hapara and the workspace environment as well. And then we're going to talk a little bit more about what it means to kind of, maybe if they ask you to submit an assignment, what does that look like? So right now, we're going to assume it's the first day with your child's teacher, and they have shared some information with you, meaning they have invited you to a Google Meet, and I'm ready to get signed on. So the student portal that I'm seeing right now is very helpful for me, like Rob mentioned, and for everybody, because it houses what we need to make sure our student is successful. So when the student logs in that day to log in for their meet, and any other day, of course, following and preceding and proceeding all this, is they're going to click on the Google Meet icon. And when they click on the Google Meet icon, it's going to bring you to this, what should be something that looks right here. And what this is showing you, it's only showing you the events that you have today. And by this meaning the student has today. So there may be one, there may be a couple based on what the teacher is looking at. And it won't show things in the past. So right now it's either during the event, or there is a test calendar invite, for a lack of a better example, that's on there. So that's only showing events that the child would be able to participate in the day of. So on the student portal, we found the simplest feedback from all the great virtual teachers and parents and students right now is to enter the student portal and click on Meet, which then brings you to just your agenda for that day. It's nice and simple for you to navigate. And again, I did mention that in the case of this only shows today's. So the student could click on this and open it up, and you would have the option to enter into that environment with your microphone on, off, your video on and off. And of course, all those criterias and your comfort level will be up to you and your classroom teacher to establish as you're moving forward. But if I click on this, it will bring me to a screen that says, okay, do you want to join? And on that next one, I'll click on it and see if it brings me. So it's bringing me to a screen that looks like this. And you can see that we're part of this call right now because I shared it with this event. And here's me. And I could turn off my microphone and my camera in that moment and join and join back up and flip those back on when I'm on. So all those different scenarios, but that's what it would look like for you and your student, your child, I should say. So that's the Google Meet icon when we are on. I'm just going to click back on it so you can see. So that's today. But I do want to show you that it does create events in your Google Calendar for your child. And that means that you could look ahead to see that something's there for tomorrow or the next day or the next day. But in the moment of getting on that day, you would not need to look at that. So I'm going to click on Portal, and you can see that up here, Calendar is there. And if you click on the Google Calendar, you can see that there are events. You saw these two events for that day, but you can see that tomorrow it did not show the 17th has two events and the 18th had an event. It did not show that when you clicked on Google Meet, but Google Calendar is a place that you could go to verify that there are events there in the future and to make sure everything seems to look all right based on what you need. Okay, so that is Google Meet. And that is something that your classroom teacher would set up and add, and you should be added to once your child starts getting added into the class email. And sometimes there's been emails going out as this transition of data occurs that we know that we'll get your child in there so they can start their learning with their teacher. The next piece, and I've seen a question pop up as well about workspace. When we talked about Google Meet and their class sort of email that the teacher uses to set up these Google Meets, is that they would automatically, your child's name would be automatically put into that class profile, that group. But in Hapara, if their child is missing from being able to see that, the teacher would have to manually drop that student into that group as well as it was new. So if your child is missing some activities and has been communicated from your teacher, I would just touch base with your teacher because they might need to be just added to a certain group within Hapara Workspace. I'm about to show you that, but I did see there was a question on there already. So I'm going to click on Workspace and Student Dashboard. We do have a slide in the slide deck that does, I'm not going to go back to it at this point, but does compare some of the wording of Hapara and the difference between that and Google Drive. Your teacher may ask you to go to Google Drive and you can use folders and so forth. But what I'm showing you today is Hapara Workspace through the Student Dashboard. So there's two separate avenues. So when I click on Hapara Student Dashboard, again, that's on the student portal, you'll be able to see all the workspaces that have been shared with your child. And it can be from multiple, I'm seeing all the classes, so it could be from multiple teachers. And if you're transitioning in, it still may be from your teacher from the previous school. And you're seeing a couple things, but there's only, I think, a couple items that I want to direct you to. Is that one at the top, you can toggle between all your classes. So again, this is not going to say CC Training 1 and 2. It's going to say your classes and your subjects up there. So as a student, you're going into this student dashboard, and you can narrow things down by class. So of course you can. You can also narrow it down by things you have to do. Now, not all teachers and not all action items have a specific calendar associated with it. So this is not the only place I would go to look at it. But when I click on the to-do list, it does give me some indications of when are some of items that I'm about to show you would be due. So as a parent and talking to my child, I would be able to get them to log in and click in these areas. You'd be able to see some of those pieces via conversation with them or them showing their screen to you. But I'm just going to go to one of these workspaces, and I'm going to see if I can pull it, go back. I'm just going to reset myself to all my classes. And I'm going to click on the one that looks like Virtual Parent Live Stream Workspace. So that's something that my teacher has shared with me. And when I log in, there are many different ways that a teacher could use Workspace. Some will use it for one subject. Some may use it for as a weekly where they embed a couple subjects in there. So I cannot show you every single way that your specific child may encounter a Workspace, because that's part of the greatness of the tool, is that it can be used in many different ways. But there are some commonalities for how Workspace is used. And one is you would see different columns here, and they are normally named goals, resources, and evidence, but your child's teacher may have renamed them for different purposes, and you may not see 3 categories, you may see 4, or you may see 2 or 1 based on what the teacher has done. But the main one I'm going to point to you is this evidence column, because a lot of times your child may be asked to complete something or link something. And in the other categories, it's usually resources and things that can help your child support their learning. Maybe it's a website, or maybe it's an article, or so forth. So I'm scrolling down for this example for a K-6 webinar. And on the right-hand side, your child may see that there are some different items that they need to start. If they've started it and you come back into this area, you will be able to see that you can continue working on this, but I'll show you what that is after I've started. So here's an article that they click on, and this just brings to a link, an external link within their browser. So that's not a problem. Workspace is still right here, and I can flip back to it. And then here, I'm going to notice a couple different things that people have asked us about, people meaning our school community, is that in this case, individual evidence means that when I start this, I'm doing it by myself as a student. So it's just me, and the only other person that's going to see it is the classroom teacher. I'm going to click on Start. And the teacher here has linked in a slide deck. And when it opens up, the slide deck may be fairly empty, so that I have some autonomy as a parent, as a student again, to create this. You can see it's opening up. And basically, this teacher's given me a template, and it just says, okay, here's the first page, and the second page is blank. And I can go in and create titles, and I can create text. In this case, what I have not put on the instructions as a teacher when I created this example was what to do. So obviously your teacher would create and give you instructions and give your child instructions on what to do in here. They can use this as a Google slide and access it via their specific workspace, and it would sit in Google Drive as they're working on it. When they go back here, you can see that it has the word submit. So that means that if I click the word submit, that means I'm insinuating that I'm ready for my teacher to give me some feedback. It doesn't mean it's the final piece of the process, but I'm ready for them to understand that I have some work that I would like them to look at. However, that's not always the case either. Maybe it doesn't always need to be submitted, but the key thing is that as a student, I can go back in and I can click on this link, and I can keep on working on it every time I go to the workspace. Your teacher may ask you to submit it. When it's submitted, it will lock it. I'm going to click it and submit it, sending the work to the teacher. It will say submitted, which is great. And when I go to this document, I'm just going to refresh it and see if it shows me. You can see now that it is comment only. So as a student, I can now not type into the text box. I can only leave comments in the side, and your child's teacher will be able to support that if that's something that a workflow that they are looking for. But if I accidentally submitted it, you can just touch base with your classroom's teacher, and they can unsubmit it for you in that case. In the group evidence, it's the same slide deck, except you can see that it says group evidence. And that means that on the left-hand side here, I'm in group 2. You will be able to see who's in your group, but also that you know that when you start it, you are also sharing this with students in your class virtually. So it would be a collaborative document. This group evidence, when it says group evidence, it is collaborative. And the same thing, you would start when they start. If you submit, it submits for everybody. So there's a lot of communication that would need to happen when you're working on something collaborative with your classmates. And the last thing I'm going to show you here is, because you might see something like this in a task, is that there may not be any slide deck in the for them to start. And when I say slide deck, it could be a Google Doc, it could be a Google Drawing, it could be lots of different things that are linked in there that is ready for your student. Again, I say your student, your child. And my task here is that I could link something. If I did something external, I could link it in. But if you have it in your Google Drive and your child's created it there, they can just click on this Google Drive icon and then find it in their Google Drive, and it pops up in this box, and then they can click submit when it's there. So those are 3 different kind of options that you might be familiar with when they come in. And you can see on this, on the group evidence, that it does have a Friday, November 20th time frame that we're looking at. And you can see the due dates are on the left-hand side as well from different tasks that I've used on that standpoint. Okay. In terms of just those first 2 points there, Rob, when we're looking at going into Meet and to highlights, are there any questions that have popped up or things that you needed from Meet and the workspace standpoint?
No, I think we are good. One of the things when you go into Meet, I mean, there's going to be lots of people in there because most of our classes are about 30. So just understand that it's not going to be, there's only 3 in this one that you're viewing right now. It'll be 30 and there'll be lots of heads. So it is a little bit different than if students haven't done it before. It's good to be there and just support them those first few times as they jump in, just so that they're familiar and they don't get lost. And where's my mic and video button and things. So those are good things when they're kicking off. Just remind them.
Thanks, Rob, for sure. And everybody's been great about the transition moving forward, and we'll make sure everybody feels at home right away. So just kind of a couple of things on the slide deck we've already talked about. So I'm just going to click quickly through them because I wanted to show you in the live environment. And the biggest thing talking about Chrome profiles and being logged in the appropriate places. So there's some slides you'll come across, and there's my reference to the difference between Student Dashboard and Workspace versus Google Drive. So your teacher will be explicit on where you would need to go to get that information. And then in here was just a screenshot and Workspace, which I just showed you. You can see how this one already looks a lot different than the one I showed you. Okay, so there is some functions on here, and now that we're in a virtual environment, we wanted to touch base just on a couple of things before I transition off to Rob and some other items that we had on our agenda. Is that this is a kind of a Hapara teacher dashboard, so it's not Workspace, but it's a tool that we use within the OCSB to help us with our learning with our students, and in a lot of cases, it means that we can open up a document for them. We can give them real live feedback as well. And that's a feature that we call highlights. And up at the top, it's part of this one piece. And I'm going to show you a little bit in a teacher view of what that means. But we wanted to be transparent when it talks about highlights, because this is a for-learning tool that helps the students in the moment to try to maybe open up a tab or lock a tab because they need some support, and maybe they're doing a little bit of assessment, or they need to some support focusing, and that's what Google Hapara Highlights is. Sorry, and for this. We're going to give you some ideas of what it is and kind of look at the restrictions. And we're going to bring ourselves back to the Google Chrome profile and logging in and out of Google like we showed you before. So it's going to be very important as part of this process to look at what it means when we do that. So what does this look like from the teacher level? It means that we're not seeing anything on the student's screen in live time, meaning that every second it's live. About every 5 seconds in highlights, there's the ability for the tab that they're on, which would be bolded, and the screen view that they're on, and I'll show you a live example in just a moment, would be that there would be a screen capture. We call it a static screen capture about every 5 seconds, I think, where it would show just the page that they're on. So we're not seeing anything in real time, but every 5 seconds, it's almost like a picture of their browser for students within their OCSB, our board-owned account, for us to help support them as best we can. So you saw how busy student 17 was with all those tabs open. I know that right now because we were showing you that student was working. They were in there getting their assignments done. from the teacher level, I'm going to show you a couple things. This is what it looks like in a teacher level. And you can see that right now, student 17 is reflective of what they were on. So that's exactly what that student was seeing at that moment in time. There's nothing else as a teacher that I would be able to do with that other than I want to use all these tools up here. This is a nice feature to help with digital citizenship and learning and redirecting in classroom management, all those things, but is not the intention of highlights within our system. There's the ability to send messages, to share links, and to guide browsing in here, and we can do that in different pieces. So you might have seen that originally, I was just looking at it quickly, is that student 11 is now flipped over to their workspace, but they were on a video right now that's flipped back. I'm sure there's about a 3 to 5 second delay. You can see Rob kind of poking around there. That there are watching a YouTube. They have a YouTube video open on there. I don't know if they're watching it. I would assume so, but it's not showing me in live moment. So that might be an ability for me to send a little message and say, oh, I really like how you're working. Hopefully that nudges them. But in a lot of cases, I'm not using these features as a teacher for this component, but again, to share links and say, everybody, I want you to look at this article. I'm going to open up a link and send it to you. Student 17 might flip over to a different article, and you can see I just clicked it there about a few seconds ago, and it's there. So this is all highlights is right now. But again, going back to the point why we talked about your profile, is that if you were logged in as a parent under their account, and you were looking at email or so forth, going back to what I was showing you with being logged into Google within their profile, we just wanted to make sure that this is what the OCSB student.ca and highlights intention is there for that. So if you're in your student's account doing things, we're under that board account, and I just wanted us to make sure that you knew that that was something there. And that is part of the Samaritan site as well for more information.
And just remember that teachers are working with students and they are trying to manage this virtual classroom. And so it does help do that a little bit. Yeah. And understand that this is only available to teachers from 8 to 4 on Monday to Friday. So there are restrictions within their ability to actually go in and view their students' accounts. And it is 8 to 4 Monday to Friday.
Perfect. So yes, it definitely replicates our school days and nothing beyond that. Definitely not weekends and definitely not evenings, but during a typical school day, 8 to 4, Monday to Friday, they have that ability to support students in their learning.
Part of the reason this is important too on this slide is, especially with the younger students, we want to make sure that their Gmail or how they're sharing files or all these things are managed appropriately, as they are just learning to use these types of tools. Yeah. So it's important for a teacher to be able to access them and make sure that they're not doing anything that's inappropriate or that people aren't trying to access them inappropriately. So the elementary teachers have a little bit more view into the accounts than the secondary teachers, where we let those kids, we relinquish some control to them more than we do the elementary.
Absolutely. Part of our K-12 support at the Samaritans level, making sure that they have some autonomy to continue to learn, but we also have the ability to protect them along that way. Okay, so again, I'm referencing you to the questions as I transition over to Rob for some remaining time, and I'll look at the questions, Rob, as we go. I've been trying to answer some along the way, but I will maybe pass on the screen sharing to you. I'll stop sharing.
Sure. Let me share.
Sure.
And my entire screen. All right. Let's go over here. Share. All right. Grab slide deck real quick. And I'm going to share a couple screens over here. And up next, we are going to cover Parent Portal, I think, and documents, right?
Yeah, we're just a bit further down on their screen.
Yeah, I'm just trying to find it now.
Slide 23 is where I finished.
There we go.
Yep, awesome.
So all of our documents right now, are you seeing that at all, Bill?
Yes, I can see it.
Okay, I don't see it. Perfect. So all of our documents now in the board we're trying to digitize everything. And so one of the steps that we took was we partnered with Compass for Success to establish a parent portal. So you may have been going through this. We're approaching 50,000 parent sign-ins now. But to get parents in, it has to be a secure sign-in. So you do have to know the data that's in our system, because that's the data we know, when you try to sign in. And it's going to ask for certain pieces of information like the email, your name, address, things like that. And if you want to get your report cards and soon your documents or IEPs or other information around your student, that's the place you're going to have to be. So if you haven't signed in there yet, you do need to get there, because with these COVID times, we're trying to drop all the paper and move everything digital. To get there, it's pretty simple. So you got to go to the Ottawa Catholic School Board. So here's our main site, ocsb.ca. And if you go into the Parents tab, one of the things that's there is Parent Portal. And that'll bring you to a page that will help you, give you instructions on what to do. So I'm going to click into that page. And you'll see that there's two things for you to do. And we've rearranged this. If you've done this recently, we rearranged it just a little bit. So the login's up top so that if you're returning, it's easier to get there. If you have a problem, then we're going to ask that for right now, because we're signing up quite a few parents, you can fill in this form. After November, it'll go back to your local school will support you with a parent portal. If you haven't registered though, then now most of our parents have, that's why we've put the login up top. Down below here is step 1, register. So you're going to have to click that and it will bring you to a site like this. And it's going to ask you for that information. So you got a couple of steps to go through, and it's going to ask you for these pieces. You should get an email and to finish the registration. If you struggle with this right now, like I said, for November, because we have quite a few parents trying to sign up right now and they're having some issues, we've consolidated a bit. Just fill in this form and we'll consolidate that, get back to your schools, or if it's other issues that are in that form, then we'll try and help you with that. After November, it'll be back to your home school. All right, so that's the parent portal. And in there, mostly right now, parents are going there to see their student information and to get report cards, because we're releasing report cards starting last week, elementary, kindergarten, and then secondary is coming up on the 20th. The last piece I want to talk about is digital forms, because as we try to get rid of paper, one of the things that we're trying to provide, especially the virtual school parents, with is a digital form for some of the student forms. So those are pretty easy to access now, and they are ready to go. And they're in your student portal. So that means you have to be signed in as a student to get them. They will move to the parent portal. They are brand new. And for us to release these on time, we needed to keep our report cards and everything working properly. So we've put them on the student portal for now. So all you have to do, and I'm going to pop into a student portal for you. We spent a lot of time on the K-6 one, so I'll pull up the 7-12. So on here, you'll see there's just more icons and things, but in both cases, this is a 7-12, and I can flip over. The forms portal is here. And in the K-6 one, you'll see it's in the same place, and it's going to give you access to that. Now, you have to be a student. I'm logged in as a staff right now on this one, so I'm going to bring up a different window for you. So in this window, it's an incognito window, but I signed in as a student so that I could show you this. And if I go to my portal, which I accessed from my high school, here's my high school website. And right here's the student portal. So I click that and it brings me up the student portal like that. I'm logged in as a student so I can see this. If you weren't logged in to your actual window as a student, it wouldn't just pop up like that, and it would challenge you for a login. So if I click Forms Portal now, you're going to see we just popped up the first couple forms that we were asked to do. So we'll give it 1 sec. And then you can fill those ones in for now, because these were the high demand ones we were asked to do first. And you'll see more and more pop up on here. We'll give it 1 more sec and then I'll let it go. But otherwise, you will see 3 forms pop up on this portal typically, and you can fill those in. And as we grow in that, there's probably about, I don't know, maybe a dozen forms that are parent accessible. And so we will be populating them all in here shortly. That's taking really long. I'm not going to wait for it. It usually just does pop up. I'll double check, but they'll just pop up in here. Oh, there they are. And you can fill them in. You can search and stuff, but right now there's only 3. You don't really have to worry about that. So you're good to go.
Rob, can you maximize that when you click on
Sure.
them? Thanks.
Here, I'll go plus. Hold on. All right. So right now, the 2 main forms that are here are the consent for media, so that your child's picture can be included in media, and the electronic responsible use of device and technology form, and that is broken up into K-6 and 7-12. So that's where you'll find them. All right. I think we're wrapping up.
Yeah, Rob, I was wondering would you be able to click on the responsible use one, just because I know
Sure.
that was a big piece for, I mean, they're all important, but if it loads in. So basically, if you're transitioning into the virtual environment, you may have received this from your home school, your brick and mortar school, in a paper form from in September. But we would encourage you when the word, this is going to be communicated from the virtual academy and the virtual elementary program in the upcoming time. But you do know that if you access it right now, you would be able to sign it in, and it will show it won't autofill all the data right now, but it will show your child's student ID. And that's why we're getting you to do it through the student portal. But basically, this is very similar, except there's been some addendums and some changes to the responsible use agreement, which means that I have an OCSB account. You can see it starting to scroll, that I will keep my password safe, and I will not share it using different items that I will use these tools to learn and for the purpose that we are using it for. And then you can see that at the end, it kind of comes in a little bit, some new ones that talk about just the expectations, just like when you're in class, there are expectations on a virtual meeting that I will use Google Meet correctly. And of course, I would not take pictures or record any sessions or people on the meet without asking permission first. And then at the bottom, you would submit this. And you should expect maybe over the next week or so an email from the respective virtual schools saying that we're going to try to get everybody to do this. But right now it is live. So if you wanted to test it out with your child's account, you would be able to. But again, we will be messaging that out over time. And even if you have done it at your home school in paper, we would like you to do that in this format as well, because your teacher would also like to just know that we have that extra layer of support from all angles, that we're all on the same page, so to speak.
And if you have more than one kid, you will have to sign into each of their accounts, because like Bill mentioned, this student ID is filled for you. So you will have to go into each student account to actually fill in these forms for those students.
Perfect. Excellent.
All right.
So
the support slides.
Yeah, so perfect. Yeah, if you wanted to finish that up, I'm looking at the questions right now, and I'll consolidate them if you want to kind of direct them there.
So on here, you're going to find out some of the supports for you, but all of these are really linked off of the OCSB.ca as well. On YouTube, there's how-tos, but again, they'll be linked off of these. And then there's always your parents' site, the CSPA site, to get support. So if you go back to OCSB.ca, let's just go back. So on here, this is our site, OCSB.ca again. And if I scroll us down to the bottom, you'll see that you have access to those. We'll just wait for it to load. You'll see that you have access to the virtual sites. So if you pop into these, you're going to get the support links that you need, really. And that's right off of OCSB.ca. So just go there and scroll to the bottom like I did, and you're going to hit that. For parents, again, you have your other support like Parent Portal, but CSPA should be on here somewhere. School Councils is on here.
Yeah, we can't see it on right now, but it's on the slide with the same way over.
Okay, I'll get CSPA there actually.
If you go back to the slide deck.
Slide deck?
Yeah, just for if we share the slide deck, then we'll be able to. we'll be able to try to share it with this through the virtual as well, just so we have it. And there we go.
Okay, so a reminder, if there's any last questions, also, if you have suggestions, and if there's any particular area you actually want a focused training session in for parents, throw it into that question area and let us know what that might be, and we can try and set those up for you. So if you didn't get enough on HAPR, or if you really want an overview of all the resources that are on the student portal, or whatever it is you're interested in, as you start to work with your student, you're going to find that there's areas that maybe you wish you knew more about. And this is a place you can do it. We have another session tomorrow as well. So if you found this useful, or if you didn't, you can tell us that too. That's okay. And otherwise, you can tell people to catch this tomorrow. If you want the slide deck that you see here right now, you might want to write this down. tinyurl.com OCSB Tech Pres VA. So I would just type that or copy and paste it, or write it with a pencil, whatever you need to do. And if you want to answer, have any questions, please put them in now, and we'll pop into our spreadsheet that is taking all these, and we will answer. And I saw somewhere up there we can easily answer those ones that are in there. Maybe you want to start, Bill, and I'll stop sharing.
Sure. Yeah, I've been monitoring it this while you were talking. And so a couple of things, I think there's some specifics, but definitely at a generic level, what happens when I have a tech issue in terms of I can get into the student portal, but I can't get into Hapara, different things like that. So definitely that's a conversation with your classroom teacher if there's any tech issues, because they would be able to put in an internal help desk ticket to best support that child and seeing, is it device, is it account, and that type of thing. So there's a couple questions on there regarding an error when they're logging in, or I can get this out, or something froze. Or it's device specific. So definitely the teacher is able to put in a help desk ticket if it's a board device, or we can look into accounts if it's specific into that ability piece.
There is a question, Bill, about the Virtual Academy page. So the only Virtual Academy pages that we have out there are the ones listed off of OCSB.ca. So those are the two pages. Those should not require a login. So I am uncertain where there was a login on this particular case, but if it's a Virtual Academy page, those are actually the two supported pages, and they're on OCSB.ca. There should be no login for those.
Yeah.
Headphone question.
Yep, definitely.
Highly recommend.
Well, especially, you know your situation at home the best and where they might be learning. And so it is not mandatory from the school board level that your child has headphones, but you also know that if there's going to be around the table or in different rooms where it could be loud, then it might be something that would be advantageous for your child. So it'd be case by case, depending on how it looks like in your specific home scenario for that.
But it's a good idea, especially if you have two kids. So otherwise they'll be interfering all the time if they're both on video at the same time. So if you can do that, I would recommend. You don't need fancy headphones. You can take almost anything for that. And a mic or not a mic, it doesn't matter. The devices pick up your voice quite good. So it can be useful, but it's certainly not requirement. So you can go very low end if you need to.
Yeah. I think there was one just about which we brought to the responsible use agreement. So with the OCSB education sort of line, we on the Samaritan's website, we did show you all the protections that it does entail by using the Google from all the information and so forth that is stored in a protective way. And so that's the Samaritan's site. But within that comes the Google environment within G Suite. And there was a question about there is links to YouTube and their Google Drives and so forth. So of course, for us, the campaign is just to make sure through sessions such as this that there's an awareness of what Google Drive and all the G Suite entails, so that we can best support our child and our students within Workspace, within Google and so forth, so that we can know we can work with them, because we need, this part of the Samaritans program is that we continue to work with our students today, just so that they understand what these tools can do and they can use it properly.
There is a question about an account and different access to things like YouTube.
Yeah.
Some of the things that we have access to and can control are slightly better within Google than others. On YouTube, all the kids do have full accounts in Google. That includes a video account with YouTube because we often do use video for posting and sharing and setting up different ways to share, like playlists and subscribing to other kids' accounts. So we do show them some of these things depending on the teacher. Part of I have to say, these accounts should be public to you. You have your students' logins. And yes, could the kids be on a device, I suppose, unsupervised and doing other things that you don't want them to do? That's very possible that they are doing things like that. We encourage devices, especially in elementary, before kids really have good behaviors typically around them, that parents are aware of what their kids are doing online and don't have their kids on devices unsupervised. So we do encourage that.
Yeah, and everything within there is in the proper protections from being a student within there, and at being a kid's account, and everything is specific target to our students in a K to 12 education. That makes sure so it's not an open. With all, we do have some restrictions at the board through their accounts and through these accounts that are supporting them in this learning process as well.
Schedule and teacher's name just popped in. So this is a process for us to shift 1,000, 2,000 kids just in this transition. And it's quite manual, unfortunately, in moving them from one school to another, which is what we have to do, making sure they have all the right sections and assigned to a new teacher and things. It's not a trivial task, and it's a super manual task, actually. So we have software systems that manage all this, but you actually have to say, oh, we're taking them out of here and we're putting them there. It doesn't happen magically. And with thousands of kids, it actually is really time consuming. And we have to assign a lot of staff to do it. So if you haven't reached it yet, our goal is to have everybody ready to go for sure by the 18th. That is our absolute goal. I know they were really close to getting that done. If you haven't seen it yet, I'm quite confident in the next 2 days that's going to happen. I can't promise it, but they did put a bunch of staff on this to try and make sure we were good to go by the 18th. And the messages I was getting back were they felt they were going to be successful for the 18th. So if you haven't seen it today, tomorrow's your last day, but it's very, very likely that that's all going to be done by tomorrow.
Yeah, and just it's not easy on anybody when we're in a big transition like this from the family level to the school level to the teacher level. And we want to make sure, like we said, that we're supporting as best we can. That's why we're doing a session like this today. And just keep in mind, if it was settled this morning, your classroom teacher is currently teaching as well. So maybe it's sitting there and ready to be shared as soon as possible. So we will, of course, there are those email addresses and the contacts that we showed from the virtual schools that, if we're getting closer to then, of course you can make contact with the schools. But we do also emphasize that this is a big process, that give it a little bit of time for sure, to make sure that this can happen as fast as we can.
There is a question about material not showing up for them in HAPRA. So in that case, you should contact the teacher to ensure that they've put the student in the right place so that they are viewing this material. So that might have just been a slip and a shift here. So do contact your teacher and make sure that they're aware of that, because they just need to make sure they put them in the right groups and things like that so that everybody sees it. So it might have been a slip in the transfer, but yes, that's the way to fix that.
Okay. Yeah, we definitely, as we are getting out the glitches at the beginning for it, we've definitely kind of used our hour now, and the questions have not continued to come in. So we're going to use this opportunity to say thank you to everyone for joining on this session. Of course, we know there's lots of supports that will get out in communication. We definitely will provide that Chrome video. We'll definitely provide more information on highlights that will come through your virtual schools. And we do have a parent YouTube channel that we link to, and those have been in all our CSPA updates. So if you subscribe to those parent association updates, they have been shared out over the September and October and into November. About how to get to that YouTube channel, and we will continue to provide that link as well. And it's in the slide deck here, of course. So, Rob, thank you so much. We'll do it again tomorrow.
Yeah, so if people want to let people know, just let them know we are on again tomorrow, I think at 10:30.
I think 10 on the dot. But
10
yeah,
on the dot,
in that
okay.
time frame, yeah.
And if you meet me after Movember, then you may not recognize me, just so you know.
Yeah, that might be some of the feedback. We'll see. You can do this, but not in November with Rob.
All right.
Yeah,
Take
thank
care,
you.
everyone.
Have
Bye
a
now.
good rest of your day. Bye.